ॐ शुक्लां भरतरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। अगजानन पद्मार्कं गजाननमहर्निशम् अनेकदन्तं भक्तानाम् एकदन्तमुपास्महे। श्रीमहागणपतये नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विषजे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां श्रीहयग्रीवमुपास्महे। श्रीहयग्रीवमूर्तये नमः। सरस्वति नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। श्रीमहासरस्वत्यै नमः। उमाकोमलहस्ताब्जसम्भावितललाटकं हिरण्यकुण्डलं वन्दे कुमारं पुष्करस्वजं। வெற்றிவேல் முருகனுக்கு ஹரஹரோஹரா. லோகவீரியம் மகாபூஜ்யம் சர்வரக்ஷாகரம் விபும் பார்வதி ஹிருதயானந்தம் சாஸ்தாரம் பிரணமாம்யகம். சுவாமியே சரணமையப்பா. வாகர்த்தாவிவ சம்பிருக்தௌ வாகர்த்த பிரதிபத்தயே ஜகதः பிதரௌ வந்தே பார்வதி பரமேஸ்வரௌ. ஸ்ரீ பார்வதி பரமேஸ்வராभ्यां நமः. कोमलं पूजयन् वेणुं श्यामलोऽयं कुमारकः वेदवेद्यं परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। पीताम्बरं करविराजितचक्रशङ्खकौमोदकी सरसिजं करुणासमुद्रं राधासहायम् अतिसुन्दरमन्दहासं वातालयेशम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। कृष्णो रक्षतु मां चराचरगुरुः कृष्णं नमस्ये सदा। कृष्णेनैव सुरक्षितोऽहमसकृत् कृष्णाय दत्तं मनः। कृष्णादेव समुद्भवो मम विभो कृष्णस्य दासोऽस्म्यहं। कृष्णे भक्तिरचञ्चलास्तु भगवन्। हे कृष्ण तुभ्यं नमः। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं नम्राणां सन्निधत्ते सततमपि पुरस्तैरनभ्यर्थितानपि आर्तान् कामानजस्रं वितरति परमानन्दसान्द्रां गतिं च। इत्थं निःशेषलभ्यो निरवधिकफलः पारिजातो हरे त्वं क्षुद्रं तं शक्रवाटी द्रुममभिलषति व्यर्थमर्त्यव्रजोऽयं। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं श्रीभट्टपादम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। वंशीविभूषितकरात् नवनीरधाभात् पीताम्बरात् अरुणबिम्बफलादरोष्टात् पूर्णेन्दुसुन्दरमुखात् अरविन्दनेत्रात् कृष्णात् परं किमपि तत्त्वमहं न जाने। കൈരണ്ടും കൂപ്പി ഞാൻ വീണ്ടുമീറക്കുന്നു നീരജലോചന നിന്നോടായി. ഏതീനു മഞ്ഞനെ കുമ്പീരേണ്ടാത്തോറും പ്രീതിയിൽ നീ എന്നെ പാലിക്കെന്നായി. കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ. Good morning, everyone. Okay. We'll just do a review of 63 and then a little bit of 64 that we did. Maybe Anu, can you do 63? And then,
Yeah.
She's not on. Anyone else? Anyone wants to do 64, the first 8 stanzas?
I can do it. Lakshmi here.
Okay, go ahead.
Lakshmi. 64.
Okay. Anu first stanza and then, yeah.
So this is where the tune change happens, right? Rajesh, the second.
Yeah, second stanza. Yeah, second and then sixth stanza also.
Oh yeah. Sixth also.
Yeah.
Okay. Tadrushire kila dakshana makshadasthanida jrumpita kampita diktadaha sushamaya bhavatanga tulam kataha prajapado parivaridharastvaya vipula karaka misraihi toyatara nibadaihi दिशि दिशि पशुपानां मण्डले तण्ड्यमाने कुपितहरिकृतान्नः पाहि पाहीति तेषां वचनमिजत् शृण्वन्मा पिबीतेत्यपानीः कुल इह खलु गोत्रो दैवतं गोत्रशत्रोर्विहितमिह सृन्दयात् को नु वः संशयोऽस्मिन् इति सह सिद्धवादी देवको वर्धनात्रिम् त्वरितमुदमुमूलो मूलतो पालतोऽप्याम्
Second line, first word, bihatimiha.
विहतिमिह
Yeah.
तदनु गिरिवरस्य प्रोद्धृतस्यास्य तावत् सिखतिलमृदुदेशे दूरतो वारितापे परिकर परिमिश्रान् तेनुको बान्त. Is it Banta or Banada?
Denu gopan adhastat.
Gopan. Okay, I didn't. Tenukopan adhastat ubanidat ubanidat adetta hastabat menashailam भवति विद्रुतशैले बालिकाभिर्वयस्यैः अभिविहितविलासं केलिलापादिकोले सवितमिलितदे नूरेकहस्तेन कण्डु यदि सदि पशुबालास्दोषमैषन्त सर्वे.
The second line, last word, Anu, is lole.
लोले
Kelilapadi lole.
केलिलापादिलोले.
Yeah. Your tune changes in six.
अधिमहान् गिरिरेशदुवामके करसरोरुहितं तरदेक्षिरं किमिदमत्पुदमत्रिबलन्विति त्वदवलोकिभिरागदिक्कोपकैः अहहदाष्ट्य ममुष्य वडोर्किरिं व्यदितबाहुरसावरोपयेत् इति हरिस्त्वयि भक्तविकर्हणो दिवस सप्तकमुक्रमवर्षयत् अचलति त्वयि देव पदात् पदं कलित सर्वजले चकनोत्करे अबहृते मरुदां पदिः त्वदपि शङ्गिदति समुपात्रवत् शममुपेयुषि वर्षभरे तदा पशुपतेऽनुकूले च विनिर्गदे भुवि विभो समुपाहितपूदरः प्रमुदितैः पशुपैः परिरेभिषे तरणिमेव पुरा त्रुधवानसि क्षिदितरोत्तरणे तवकश्रमः इति नुदस्त्रिदशैः कमलापते कुरु पुरालय पालय मां कदात्. श्रीकृष्णाय परब्रह्मणे नमः.
Dasakam 64, Govinda Pattabhishega Varnanam. आलोक्य शैलातरणादिरूपं उच्चैस्तव गोपलोकाः विश्वेश्वरं त्वाम् अभिमत्य विश्वे नन्दं भवज्जातकम् अन्वभृश्चन्.
Lakshmi, the second word is shailod. O sound.
Shailoda. Sorry. Okay. गर्गोदितो निर्गदितो निजाय वर्गाय तातेन तव प्रभावः पूर्वादिकस्त्वय्यनुराग येषाम् ऐतिष्ठ तावत् बहुमानभारः तदोवमानोदि तदत्वबोधः सुरादिराजः सह दिव्यकव्या उपेत्य दुष्ट्वासनष्टकर्वः स्पृष्ट्वा पदाब्जं मणिमौलिनाथे स्नेहस्नुतैस्त्वां सुरभिः पयोभिः गोविन्दनामाङ्कितम् अभ्यषिञ्चत् ऐरावतोपाहृतदिव्यगङ्गा पादोभिरिन्द्रोऽभि स जातहर्षः जगत्त्रयेशे त्वयि गोकुलेशे तथाभिषिक्ते सति गोपवाटः नाकेऽपि वैकुण्ठपदेऽप्यलभ्यां श्रियं प्रपेते पवदः प्रभावात् कदाचित् अन्तर्यमुनं प्रभाते स्नायन् पिता वारुणपूरुषेण नीतस्तमानेनुमकाः पुरीं त्वं तां वारुणीं कारणमद्यरूपः ससम्
Second line first word. Neetas tamanetu magaf.
नीतस्तमानेतुमकः
Yeah.
ससम्प्रमं तेन जलातिपेन प्रभूजितस्त्वं प्रतिगृह्यतातम् उपागतस्तत्क्षणम् आत्मकेहं पितावत तच्छरितं निजेभ्यः हरिं विनिश्चित्य भवन्तमेतान् भवत्पदालोकनबद्धतृष्णान् निरीक्ष्य विष्णो परमं पदं तत् दुराभम् अन्यस्त्वमतितृषस्तान्.
I think that's where we stop. Yeah.
Hmm.
All right. So we continue from Nayan. Let me see. Pramila, you can be a student, and Devi, you can be a student. Chapter 9. Spurat Spurat Parananda Rasa Pravaha Prapurna Kaivalya Mahapayodhau Chiram Nimagnah Khalu Gopasangaha Tvayaiva Bhuman Punarudhritaste. I have to say the meaning for eighth also. So we saw last couple of things, right? We saw the Govardhana Uddharana Varna. We saw that. Then we saw the Govinda Pattabhishekam, where Indra realized his mistake, and then he comes, surrenders, and then we the Pattabhishekam of Krishna as Govinda. And then the second part of last lesson 64 was where Nanda Gopa, he had gone to bath the early hours when it was dark outside, and then he went to Varuna Loka. So there, then Krishna went to rescue him, and Varuna immediately recognized Krishna, unlike Indra. And so then, when Nanda Gopa comes back, he tells already all these Gopas were wondering that how did Krishna even lift that Govardhana mountain? And then he reminded them of what Garga Muni had said. And then again, when he described what happened in the Varuna Loka, so these people really thought, that Krishna is Harim Vinishchitya in the previous stanza, right? They thought he is indeed Bhagavan only. So they begin to come to that realization. But at the same time, Nandagopa also talks about the greatness of the Varuna Loka. He talks about how exquisite it is, how very massive it is, and all the things which are in there. So what happens is these Gopas begin to feel like, oh, this is what heaven looks like, right? So they start wanting that. Now Krishna now realizes that all these people, normal people, they all want to think they want to go to heaven, but that heaven is also not permanent. You go, you have to eventually take birth back, right? Depending on your karma, it's never permanent. So he wants them to realize that whatever you think of all these other great worlds are also temporary in nature, so not to get attached to it. But how do you know you should not get attached to it? You should show something which is even better than that, right? So what, very briefly, like very similar to what happened to Yashoda, Krishna, for all these Gopas, very briefly, he then shows them what Vaikuntham looks like. So that's why in this, in this stanza, it says, Chiram Nimagna, for some amount of time, right? He actually shows them how it feels to be liberated. So because that sense of bliss one gets from being liberated is much higher than going and seeing all these other greater things. So he, for a very brief moment, he shows them that. So they all are in a state of ecstasy by getting that sense of being liberated and seeing Vaikuntham, that they don't want that other lokas anymore. They don't want Varuna Loka. They don't want the heaven, which is the Indra Loka. They don't want any of that. But instantly, Krishna then brings them back. Now, while they might have forgotten that they saw it, but subconsciously, it's already locked into them that they don't want all these intermediary things. So that's what Krishna was trying to drive in their minds. Don't keep aiming for this heaven, because that is only temporary in nature. You will eventually have to take birth again. You have to aim for liberation, which is permanent and much higher than that. So that is the experience that Krishna gives to all these Gopas. Spurat Parananda rasa pravaha. That's why it's parananda, because ananda is happiness. Parananda is more than happiness. Spurat parananda rasa pravaha, put a plus, prapurna kaivalya maha payodhau. So that line is together. Chiram nimagnaha, put a nimagnah, khalu gopa sanghaha is goes away, visarga comma. Tvayaiva bhuman punarudhritaste. स्फुरत्परानन्दरसप्रवाहप्रपूर्णकैवल्यमहापयोधौ चिरं निमग्नाः खलु घोपसङ्घाः त्वयैव भूमन् पुनरुद्धृतास्ते.
स्फुरत्परानन्दरसप्रवाह प्रपूर्णकैवल्यमहापयोधौ चिरं निमग्नः खलु गोपसङ्घाः त्वयैव भूमन् पुनरुद्धृतास्ते. स्फुरत्परानन्दरसप्रवाह प्रपूर्णकैवल्यमहापयोधौ चिरं निमग्नः खलु गोपसङ्घाः त्वयैव भूमन् पुनरुद्धृतास्ते.
स्फुरत्परानन्दरसप्रवाह प्रपूर्णकैवल्यमहापयोधौ चिरं निमग्नः खलु गोपसङ्गाः त्वयैव भूमन् पुनरुद्धृतास्ते. स्फुरत्परानन्दरसप्रवाह प्रपूर्णकैवल्यमहापयोधौ चिरं निमग्नः खलु गोपसङ्गाः त्वयैव भूमन् पुनरुद्धृतास्ते.
Sansate. करभदरवधेवं देवकुत्रावतारे निजपदमनवाप्यं दर्शितं भक्तिभाजां तदिह पशुपरूपी त्वं हि साक्षात् परात्मा पवनपुरनिवासिन् पाहि मामामयेभ्यः. Absit is saying, like even these gopas who are like very ordinary in this incarnation of theirs, they are ordinary just cowherds, right? But they are all, like we saw before, they are all incarnations of the various devas and other rishis who are already spiritual in nature. So they didn't get this opportunity that easily. So, but it says in which avataram, kutra avatar, in which other avataram of yours have you showed what Vaikuntham looks like so easily to every person who is around? That is only in Krishna Avataram, everybody got that opportunity, right? And you did it as if you see the inside of your palm, it is generally very light in color. So in that palm, if you keep a black berry, the berry is very explicitly visible. So you're saying, so Badare, so as if someone can see a berry when it is kept in the middle of a palm, which is so clear. In no other avataram have you made it so explicitly clear for people that what liberation looks like, what Vaikuntham looks like, what it is to be liberated by being around you. That only happened in Krishna Avataram. So you who's in the form of a Pashupa Rupi, who's in the form of a cowherd boy, you are Sakshat Paramatma. You are the Paramat Supreme Bhagavan. Oh, Guru Arapa, please eradicate my ailments. So later on in Dashakam 74, Bhattacharya will make a statement, he'll say that we are all suffering right now because we might have got a chance during maybe Krishna Avataram to be around Krishna, but we never went. So there will be an opportunity when Krishna goes to Mathura and a lot of people will go meet him. So Bhattacharya said, I probably did not go. I was busy doing other things that I ended up not going and seeing you, because if I had gone and seen you then during the Krishna Avataram, I wouldn't be here struggling right now. Right? Because everybody who was there then got liberated, right? Karabhadarava Devam Deva Kutravatare, Nija Padam Anavapyam Darshitam Bhakti Bhajam Tadiha Pashupa Rupi Twamhi Sakshat Paratma, Pavana Pura Nivasin Pahi Mama Mayebhyaha.
ராஜேஷ் ஒரே ஒரு செகண்ட். இந்த செகண்ட் லைன்ல வந்து இங்க வந்து பரபதமான வாபியம்னு போட்டிருக்கு. நீங்க என்ன சொன்னீங்க?
Okay, it's the same thing. I said Nija Padam. So Parapadam is like the greatest of the abode. Nija Padam is that truthful abode. So it means the same thing. You can change it to Nija.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So this one, the tune is different compared to the other stanzas. Karabhadarabhadevam Deva Kutravatare निजपदमनवाप्यं दर्शितं भक्तिभाजां तदिह पशुपरूपी त्वं हि साक्षात् परात्मा पवनपुरनिवासिन् पाहि मामयेभ्यः।
करभदरवदेवं देवकुत्रावतारे निजपदमनवाप्यं दर्शितं भक्तिभाजां तदिह पशुपरूपी त्वं हि साक्षात् परात्मा पवनपुरनिवासिन् पाहि मामयेभ्यः। करभदरवदेवं देवकुत्रावतारे निजपदमनवाप्यं दर्शितं भक्तिभाजां तदिह पशुपरूपी त्वं हि साक्षात् परात्मा पवनपुरनिवासिन् पाहि मामयेभ्यः।
करभदरवदेवं देवकुत्रावतारे निजपदमनवाप्यं दर्शितं भक्तिभाजां तदिह पशुपरूपी त्वं हि साक्षात् परात्मा पवनपुरनिवासिन् पाहि मामयेभ्यः।
Last word, Devi. Mamayebhyah.
3 mass.
Yeah, 3 of them. It's amayebhyah, but you can say it together. Mamayebhyah.
मामयेभ्यः। करभदरदेवं देवकुत्रावतारे निजपदमनवाप्यं दर्शितं भक्तिभाजां तदिह पशुपरूपी त्वं हि साक्षात् परात्मा पवनपुरनिवासिन् पाहि मामयेभ्यः। Did I get it?
Yeah.
Rajesh?
Yeah.
Rajesh, is it Pavanapura Nivasin or Pavanapura Vasin?
Pavanapura Nivasin.
Nivasin. I have to add Ni.
Yeah, okay. Nivasin. Oh, I didn't know you had a Va there. Just a Va there. Pavanapura Nivasin. Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. Okay, we'll go to 65. So before we get going, so this few dashkams, I'm going to kind of say the meaning upfront instead of going stanza by stanza because the flow will not be there otherwise. So the 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 5 dashakams. They're called as Rasa Pancha Adhyay, 5 dashakams, right? Of Rasa Krida. So when we say Rasa Krida, people only remember, oh, Krishna went and danced with the Gopikas. But there's actually much more than that because it ends with the dance, but it doesn't begin with that, right? That's the destiny, that's the final outcome of it. So this is like 5 dashakams which are actually associated with it. Now the question is, why do you need 5 dashakams to talk about just Krishna dancing with the Gopikas, right? So before we get into this, right, there's a very beautiful conversation that happens in Bhagavatam, which is very relevant that we also talk about it. So it's natural, right, for everybody to ask, how is it, Krishna, you're saying is a god, but, why is Krishna going and having a dance with women? He's one man or one boy. He's only 8 or 9 years old at that time anyways. But how is he going and having and dancing with all these girls in the middle of the night, right? Some of them married, some of them unmarried, some of them old, but all ages, right? How is he going and doing it in the middle of the night? How is that, the what do you call, ethical or moral or whatever, right? So when Shukra Brahman was talking about this to Parikshit, Parikshit, as he was listening about the Gopika's love for Krishna, and he noticed that now he, of course, Parikshit was already very realized. So he was able to understand the intent of what Shukha is telling. But he realized that there were a lot of other people in the assembly who were sitting and listening to Shukra Brahman, whose faces were beginning to question and the main question was not about why these Gopikas are in love with Krishna. It was about for us to get liberated, everybody says move away from all things material in nature, because the more you are attached to material things, you will not get liberated. Being in love is a material thing. So how can the Gopikas be in love with somebody which is such material in nature, but then actually get liberated, right? That doesn't seem to make sense, right? It is all this love puts you into more and more bondage. You love somebody more, you are in bondage with them because that person doesn't say something bad to you, that person leaves you, then you all get very upset about it, right? So it puts you more and more into bondage. So he says, how can somebody get liberated by getting more in love? So at that time, Shukra Brahman gives a very beautiful, long explanation, but I'm just going to condense it. So he says that it's very difficult to understand the spiritual purity of the love of the Gopikas, which is why even in Narayaneeyam, out of the 100 Dashakam, Krishna Avataram is the middle 50 Dashakams of it, approximately. And even in that, this Rasa Krida is coming in the middle of the Krishna Avataram, right? That is because to be able to understand the spiritual purity of the love of the Gopikas, one has to understand the whole thing. You cannot just directly jump into it, you won't get it. So that's why even in Bhagavatam, it is kind of somewhere in the middle, because it is so, it's the most deepest of love, right? So here, a couple of things are set as expectations, right? One is saying that Krishna is full as Bhagavan and satisfied in himself. He doesn't need anything or anybody else to keep him happy. Unlike us, our happiness is dependent on someone or something. But as Bhagavan, Krishna is satisfied in himself. He's not dependent on anything. Second, we all get desires only because we lack something. So if you don't have something or if you lack something, then you want something. But Bhagavan is pure. See, he already has everything. So there's no concept of desire for somebody who is a Bhagavan, right? That's the second point. And third thing, like we've discussed long time in the beginning and even during Kapilopakyanam and all of that, is that Purusha, who's the supreme self, is always independent of material nature. That these two never connect. It is only when you become a Jivatma like us, you then get attached to material nature. So that separation is very clear. So from Krishna's perspective, there is no desire, there is no attachment, there is no influence of any material energy. Now, from the Gopika's perspective, right, when we kind of talk about it, they clearly define that this is not material love, because material love, which a lot of us have material attachments to things, is always based on some desire, always wanting something. It is a little bit selfish in nature. It is dependent on the body, right? We associate ourselves to the body. We love people who are connected to us. It's all temporary happiness. But the spiritual love is something which is selfless in nature. And they only do this because they want to make sure Krishna is happy. They are not really doing it for themselves, right? There's a true selfless love there. So with that context, he goes on to talk about how, because Bhagavan is Avyaya, he's limitless, he's endless. You cannot measure him, right? He's Aprameya, he's Nirguna, he's free of all material qualities that we associated with it. So there can be no influence of any of those things on Krishna, right? So he's always on his own. It's all for the pleasure of the Gopikas. And then Shukra Brahmam says one thing very beautifully. When Bhagavan has descended down on earth to bless everybody, who are we to say how you should connect to him? We cannot say anyway. You can connect to him in any way you want, right? There's no, because at the end of the day, he's spiritual in nature. So however you connect with him, which is what we are seeing in Krishna Avataram, whether you hate him, you love him, you are his friend, you want to marry Krishna, or you want to be his father, or you want to be his son, or whatever that relation may be, it doesn't matter as long as you have a connection to Krishna. So that is what this is at the end of the day trying to say, is it doesn't matter, because Narada says one very beautiful thing. He says that, sometimes for people, right, who have the lactose intolerance, so when you eat, when you have certain milk preparation, it causes bowel disorders. But the medicine for that is actually curd mixed with some other medicine, right? So he says that just because you have lactose intolerant, you cannot consume milk. But then the same thing, curd, which comes from milk when mixed with something, is solving the problem. See, the example he was giving that for the same thing of the material attachments, which I said. If you have material attachment with anything else or anybody else, you are into bondage. But the same material attachment, when it is directed towards Bhagavan, when it's directed towards Krishna, is no longer material in nature. It actually becomes spiritual in nature. So you can go and get materially attached to Bhagavan and not get bound by it, right? Because it is truly becomes spiritual the moment it touches him, right? So that is the context before we get into the next 5 Dashakams of it. So the first 65 Dashakam starts with these Gopikas coming to Krishna, right? So here, like, in after the Vastrapaharanam Dashakam, in Dashakam 60, where Krishna said, I know you all want to marry me. This is for the Gopikas who are unmarried. And, I will give you an opportunity, right? So at that time, Krishna, when the time was right, then Krishna, one night, Krishna is going to the banks of Yamuna when it was like a full moon day. And then he's playing the Venuganam. So when he's playing the Venuganam, we kind of have seen in the past that when anytime somebody hears that, right? Anytime, anyway, music we hear, it stirs up different emotions in everybody, depending on the music we hear. And we saw how Krishna's Venuganam will melt the rock. So when these gopikas hear that Venuganam, it just immediately captivates their mind, right? So they are all able to hear this at night, one night, right, when it's on a full moon day, autumn night. And then they all were doing different things. So some of them were, because sometimes they also milk the cows at night. So some of them were milking the cows. Some of them were actually cooking at home. Some of them were boiling the milk. Some of them were busy with their household chores. Some of them were taking care of the children. Some of them taking care of the husbands, all different ages. But the moment they start hearing this music, they're just not able to control themselves. So they each one decides to come and meet Krishna, thinking they are coming alone. So they're normally all a group. But then they say, you know what? I am hearing it, and I feel that the signal is for me to actually go and meet Krishna, because I know this is Krishna's Venuganam. So I am going to go meet him. So with that, each of these gopikas end up leaving their houses and going and meeting. Now, this is complete contrast to Yashoda, who was in Dasakam 47 when she was cooking. She ended up leaving Krishna and she ended up going to take care of the stove. That's when Krishna broke that pot, right? But all these gopikas are like, I'm going to quit whatever I'm doing right now. And in this Dasakam, it beautifully talks about how one, like, I'm not going to generalize because it's 95% women in this class, but when women go out, they like to get dressed. So these gopikas, when they're going out, they want to get dressed because they want to look good when they go. But then when they're getting dressed, they're like halfway, like, you know what? The time it is going to take for me to dress up fully, I'm not going to spend with Krishna. So even half dressed, right, half ornaments, they left because they thought it is my look is not important for me at this point. I want to get there faster, right? So he talked about how one of them took her what you wear around the necklace and put it around her waist, and what you wear around the waist, she put it around her neck because she was in a hurry. She had to get out fast, right? And when the gopikas who were married, their husbands tried to stop them. The gopikas who were young in nature, their parents tried to stop them, but all of them did not care. They all just rushed immediately when they heard it because they wanted to go and meet with Krishna. So with that, they all in this Dashakam, they all come to the banks of the Yamuna, and then there they see Krishna playing the flute. So that's where this Dashakam comes to an end, right? And then this goes on for a few other things are going to happen after that. But that's where this comes in, where they just come in there and then they finally get to meet Krishna, and they see that all their other friends and all the other gopikas have also all assembled around the same time. Okay, so that we'll get into this. So, Gopi, first answer. Gopi Janaya Katitam Niyamavasane, Marotsavam Twamata Sadhayitum Pravrittaha Sandrena Chandra Mahasa Shishiri Kritashe, Prapurayo Muralikam Yamuna Vanante. So this one, Shishiri means it was an autumn evening. So it was very pleasant. It was very cool. And at the time, Krishna, you then began to play the flute. Gopi Janaya Katitam Niyamavasane Marotsavam Twamata Sadhayitum Pravrittaha Sandrena Chandra Mahasa Shishiri Kritashe Prapurayo Muralikam Yamuna Vanante.
गोपी जनाय कथितं नियमावसाने मारोत्सवं त्वमथ साधयितुं प्रवृत्तः सान्द्रेण चान्द्रमहसा शिशिरीकृताशे प्रापूरयो मुरलिकां यमुनावनान्ते गोपी जनाय कथितं नियमावसाने मारोत्सवं त्वमथा साधयितुं प्रवृत्तः सान्द्रेण चान्द्रमहसा शिशिरीकृताशे प्रापूरयो मुरलिकां यमुनावनान्ते
गोपीजनाय कथितं नियमावसाने मारोत्सवं त्वमथ साधयितुं प्रवृत्तः सान्द्रेण चान्द्रमहसा शिशिरीकृताशे प्रापूरयो मुरलिकां यमुनावनान्ते गोपीजनाय कथितं नियमावसाने मारोत्सवं त्वमथ साधयितुं प्रवृत्तः सान्द्रेण चान्द्रमहसा शिशिरीकृताशे प्रापूरयो मुरलिकां यमुनावनान्दे
सम्मूर्छ नाभिरुदित स्वर मण्डलाभिः comma सम्मूर्छयन्तं, I'm just breaking at that ma there, सम्मूर्छयन्तं अखिलं भुवनान्तरालं त्वद् वेणु नादम् उपकर्ण्य विभो तरुण्यः विसर्गा comma next line is goes away तत्तादृशं कमपि चित्त विमोहमापुः. Chitta is mind, so it just captivated all their minds. सम्मूर्छनाभिरुदित स्वरमण्डलाभिः सम्मूर्छयन्तमखिलं भुवनान्तरालं त्वद्वेणुनादमुपकर्ण्य विभो तरुण्यः तत्तादृशं कमपि चित्तविमोहमापुः.
सम्मूर्छनाभिरुदितस्वरमण्डलाभिः सम्मूर्छयन्तम् अखिलं भुवनान्तरालं त्वद्वेणुनादमुपकर्ण्य विभो तरुण्यः तत्तादृशं कमपि चित्तविमोहमापुः. सम्मूर्छनाभिरुदितस्वरमण्डलाभिः सम्मूर्छयन्तमखिलं भुवनान्तरालं त्वद्वेणुनाथमुपकर्ण्य विभो तरुण्यः तत्तादृशं कमपि चित्तविमोहमापुः.
सम्मूर्छनाभिरुदिरस्वरमण्डलाभिः सम्मूर्छयन्तमखिलं भुवनान्तरालं तद्वेणनादमुपकर्ण्य विभो तरुण्यः तत्तादृशं कमपि चित्तविमोहमापुः.
Devi, and the first line la नाभिरुदित
सम्मूर्छनाभिरुदिर
rudita.
रुदितस्वर.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the third line is Twadvenu. First word. Twadvenu.
स्वरमण्डलाभिः सम्मूर्छयन्तमखिलं भुवनान्तरालं त्वद्वेणुनादमुपकर्ण्य विभो तरुण्यः तत्तादृशं कमपि चित्तविमोहमापुः.
ता गेह कृत्य निरतास् तनय प्रसक्ताः कान्तोपसेवन पराश्च सरोरुहाक्ष्यः सर्वं विसृज्य मुरली रव मोहितास्ते कान्तार देशमयी कान्त तनो समेताः. This is where it talks about how everybody abandons what they are already doing and comes. तागेह कृत्य निरतास्तनय प्रसक्ताः कान्तोपसेवनपराश्च सरोरुहाक्ष्यः सर्वं विसृज्य मुरलीरवमोहितास्ते कान्तारदेशमयि कान्ततनो समेताः.
तागेह कृत्य निरतास्तनय प्रसक्ताः कान्तोपसेवनपराश्च सरोरुहाक्ष्यः सर्वं विसृज्य मुरलीरवमोहितास्ते कान्तारदेशमयि कान्ततनो समेताः. तागृह्य कृत्य निरतास्तनय प्रसक्ताः कान्तोपसेवनपराश्च सरोरुहाक्ष्यः सर्वं विसृज्य मुरलीरवमोहितास्ते कान्तारदेशमयि कान्ततनो समेताः.
Milan, the first line ta geha kritya.
Okay, ta geha kritya niratastanaya prasakta. Okay, thank you.
तागेह कृत्य निरतातनय प्रसक्ताः कान्तोपसेवनपराश्च सरोरुहाक्ष्यः सर्वं विसृज्य मुरलीरवमोहितास्ते कान्तारदेशमयि कान्ततनो समेताः.
समेताः.
समेताः तागेह कृत्य निरतास्तनय प्रसक्ताः कान्दोपसेवपराश्च सरोरुहास्यः सर्वं विसृज्य मुरलीरवमोहितास्ते कान्दारदेशमयि कान्दतनो समेताः
काश्चिन् निजाङ्ग परिभूषणं, breaking at that ma, bhushanam adhadhanaha, add a visarga there, you may not have it, bhushanam adhadhanaha, comma, venu pranadam upakarnya कृतार्ध भूषाः त्वामागता ननु तथैव विभूषिताभ्यः विसर्गा कॉमा. Next line if you have a is that goes away. ता एव संरुचिरे तव लोचनाय. काश्चिन् निजाङ्गपरिभूषणमादधानाः वेणुप्रणादमुपकर्ण्य कृतार्थभूषाः त्वामागता ननु तथैव विभूषिताभ्यः ता एव संरुचिरे तव लोचनाय.
काश्चिन्निजाङ्गपरिभूषणमादधानाः वेणुप्रणादमुपकर्ण्य कृतार्धभूषाः त्वामागता ननु तथैव विभूषिताभ्यः ता एव संरुचिरे तव लोचनाय. काश्चिन्निजाङ्गपरिभूषणमादधानाः वेणुप्रणादमुपकर्ण्य कृतार्धभूषाः त्वामागता ननु तथैव विभूषिताभ्यः ता एव संरुचिरे तव लोचनाय.
काशिन्निजाङ्गपरिभूषण आददानाः वेणुप्रदानमुपकर्ण्य कृतार्थभूषाः त्वामागता ननु तदैव विभूषिताभ्यः ता एव संरुचिरे तव लोचनाय. काचिन्निजाङ्गपरिभूषणम्
आदधानाः
परिभूषणमादधानाः वेणुप्रणादमुपकर्ण्य कृतार्थभूषाः त्वामागता ननु तदैव विभूषिताभ्यः ता एव संरुचिरे तव लोचनाय.
Here tava lochanaya, for your eyes. So this is talked about people who were not like fully decked up, right? Not wearing all the things, they only were half decorated because bhushanam, all the ornaments. So people who were only wearing half the ornaments, but they ended up rushing. So it was still pleasing to your eyes because you were not looking at how well they were dressed or what all ornaments they were wearing. The fact that they wanted to come early and be there sooner. Haram nitamba bhuvi काचन धारयन्ती काञ्चीं च कण्ठभुवि देव समागता त्वां हारित्वम् आत्म, just breaking at that ma there, हारित्वम् आत्म जगनस्य मुकुन्द तुभ्यं व्यक्तं बभाष इव मुग्ध मुखी विशेषात्. हारं नितम्ब भुवि काचन धारयन्ती काञ्चीं च कण्ठभुवि देव समागता त्वां हारित्वमात्मजगनस्य मुकुन्दतुभ्यं व्यक्तं बभाष इव मुग्धमुखी विशेषात्.
हारं निदम्बभुवि काचन धारयन्ती काञ्चीं च कण्ठभुवि देव समागता त्वां हारित्वमात्मजघनस्य मुकुन्दतुभ्यं व्यक्तं बभाष इव मुग्धमुखी विशेषात्. हारं निदम्बभुवि काचन धारयन्ती काञ्चीं च कण्ठभुवि देव समागता त्वां हारित्वमात्मजघनस्य मुकुन्द तुभ्यं व्यक्तं बभाष इव मुग्धमुखी विशेषात्
हारं निदम्बभुवि काञ्चन धारयन्ती काञ्चीं च कण्डभुवि देव समागता त्वां हारित्वमात्मजगदस्य मुकुन्द तुभ्यं व्यक्तं बभाषैव मुक्तमुखी विशेषात्.
Devi, on the first line, like Kachana, you said in, you added Kanchana, it's Kachana.
Oh no, okay, Kachana, okay. हारं निदन्धभुवि काचन धारयन्ती काञ्चीं च कण्डभुवि देव समागता त्वां हारित्वात्मजगनस्य मुकुन्द तुभ्यं व्यक्तं बभाषैव मुक्तमुखी विशेषात्.
Kachit Kuche Punarasajjita Kanchulika, comma, Vyamohataha, put a F there to join, Vyamohatah Paravadhubhiralakshyamana, cannot break that word, Paravadhubhiralakshyamana, Twamayayau Nirupama Pranayati Bhara, put a plus, Rajyabhisheka Vidhaye Kalashi Dhareva. Last two lines together. Kachit kuche punarasajjita kanchulika vyamohatah paravadhubhiralakshyamana twamayayau nirupama pranayati bhara rajyabhisheka vidaye kalashidhareva.
काचित् कुजे पुनरसज्जित कञ्चुलीका व्यामोहतः परवधूभिरलक्ष्यमाणा त्वामाययौ निरुपमप्रणयादिभार राज्याभिषेकविधये कलशीधरेव काचित् कुजे पुनरसज्जित कञ्चुलीका व्यामोहतः परवधूभिरलक्ष्यमाणा त्वामाययौ निरुपमप्रणयाधिभार राज्याभिषेक कविधये कलशीधरेव
काचित् कुचे पुनरसज्जित कञ्चुलीका व्यामोहित परवधूभिरलक्ष्यमाणा त्वामाययौ निरुपमप्रणयादिभार राज्याभिषेकविधये कलशीधरेव.
Second line, first word, Vyamohatah.
व्यामोहतः.
Yeah.
काचित् कुचे पुनरसज्जित कञ्चुलिक व्यामोहित व्यामोहतः परवधूभिरलक्ष्यमाणा त्वामाययौ निरुपमप्रणयातिभार राज्याभिषेकविधये कलशीधरेव.
Kashit grihat kila niretum, breaking at that ma, niretum aparayantyah. So add a visarga and comma, aparayantyah. Next line you have a is that goes away. Twameva deva hridaye sudrudham vibhavya deham vidhuya parachit sukha rupamekam, comma, Twama vishan paramima nanu dhanya dhanyaha. Kashit grihat kila niretum aparayantyah Twameva deva hridaye sudrudham vibhavya Deham vidhuya parachit sukarupamekam Twama vishan paramima nanu dhanya dhanyaha.
काश्चित् गृहात् किल निरेतुमपारयन्त्यः त्वामेव देव हृदये सुदृढं विभाव्य देहं विधूय परचित् सुखरूपमेकं त्वामाविशन् परमिमाननु धन्यधन्याः काश्चित् गृहात् किल निरेतुमपारयन्त्यः त्वामेव देवहृदये सुदृढं विभाव्य देहं विधूय परिचित् सुखरूपमेकं त्वामाविशन् परमिमाननुधन्यधन्याः.
Third line, parachit. I heard pari, it's parachit.
Oh, parachit. Yeah, I think I said pari. Sorry.
काश्चित् गृहात् किल
अपरायन्त्यः
निरेतुमपारयन्त्यः त्वामेव देवहृदये सुदृढं विभाव्य देहं विधूय परचित् सुखरूपमेकं त्वामाविशन् परमिमाननुधन्यधन्याः. काश्चित् गृहात् किल निरेतुमपारयन्त्यः त्वामेव देवहृदये सुदृढं विभाव्य देहं विधूय परचित् सुखरूपमेकं त्वामाविशन् परमिमाननुधन्यधन्याः.
Once again, jaratmana na paramatmataya smarantyo, naryo gataha, put f gatav, paramahamsa gatim kshanena tam tvam prakasha paramatma tanum katanchit, put a it at the end of that line, katanchit. Next, if you have a ich, that will go away. Chitte Bahannamritam, breaking at that ma, Bahannamritam, Ashramam, again breaking at that ma, Ashramam, Ashnuviya. So I'm just breaking that word into three parts. Bahannamritam, Ashramam, Ashnuviya. So here again just reminds us that, you know, the Gopikas, they Paramahamsa Gatim Shanena. So they attained the state of liberation later on. They all get liberated. They all got liberated not by thinking of you as Paramatma, but they thought of you as Jaratmana, means as somebody who they just love, right? But even then they got liberated because it's easy to love somebody. We all love our family so much, right? It's easy to like somebody, but it is very difficult for us to love Bhagavan because we always think of Bhagavan as somebody who's very superior. So it's very difficult to have that relationship, right? But they thought of him as somebody they loved, very easy. That's something that comes naturally, right? So here he says, you know, with this, do you connect to Bhagavan in a way which is ashramam for you. Each one will have different things, will be hard for different people. Some things will be easy for you. He says, whichever is ashramam for me, that's a prayer here. Whichever I can get it very easily, may have that relationship with Bhagavan. Because then it is easy to maintain. If you take up a high, difficult relationship, then you may not be able to sustain it. So he says, whatever comes naturally for me of how I want to relate to Bhagavan, please bless me with that. So I will always be able to do it with ashramam, right? I'll be able to attain liberation by having that kind of a relationship.
ராஜேஷ்,
Oh.
ஃபோர்த் ஸ்டான்ஸா ஓட பிரேக்கப் திரும்ப ஒரு தடவை சொல்றீங்களா?
Fourth line or that?
Fourth line.
And the first is ich, if you have, that will go away in Sanskrit. Chitte Bahannamritam.
Bahannamritam, okay.
Vahan, it's a Vahan and Amritam, but that A becomes a Na as well when you join those two. So Bahannamritam, Ashramam, Ashnuviya.
Okay, Ashramam, Ashnuviya. Ashnuviyana Ayarda.
Ashnuviya is to may attain that, may get that.
Okay.
Ashramam, without any shramam, may also attain the Amritam. Amritam here refers to liberation, but yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
Jaratmanana paramatmataya smarantyo naryo gatah paramahamsa gatim kshanena tam tvam prakasha paramatmatanum katanchit chitte bahannamritam ashramam ashnuviya.
जारात्मनान परमात्मतया स्मरन्त्यो नार्यो गतः परमहंस गतिं क्षणेन तं त्वां प्रकाश परमात्मतनुं कथञ्चित् चित्ते वहन्नमृतम् अश्रममश्नुवीय जारात्मना न परमात्मतया स्मरन्त्यो नार्यो गताः परमहंसगतिं क्षणेन तं त्वां प्रकाश परमात्मतनुं कथञ्चित् चित्ते वहन्नमृतम् अश्रममश्नुवीय
जारात्मनान परमात्मतयो स्मरन्त्यो नार्यो गता परमहंस गतिं क्षणेन तां त्वां प्रकाश परमात्मतनुं कदञ्चित् चित्ते वहन्नमृतमश्रममश्रुवीय जारात्मनान परमात्मतयो स्मरन्त्यो नार्यो गतां परमहंसगतिं क्षणेन तं त्वां प्रकाश परमात्मतनुं कदचित् चित्ते वहन्नमृतमश्रममश्रुवीय.
And the first line, Paramatmataya.
Paramatmataya smarandyo.
Yeah. Okay, we'll just switch midway. Hema, you can be a student, and Girish, you can be a student. Abhyagathabhir. I'm breaking it at Ra. Abhyagathabhir abito. Braja sundaribihi. Visarga, comma. Next thing, if you have a ir that goes away. Mugdha smitardra badanaha. Put ih badanah karunavaloki. Nisima kanti jaladhis tvamavekshямano, comma. Vishvaika hridya harame pavanesha rogan. This Dasakam has only 9 stanzas. So he says, with this, when they all come there, they see your beautiful form, Krishna, of you being there, and you also take a look at them. So the moment you looked at them, they all got blessed as well. So similarly, please look at me and eradicate all the ailments I have. Abhyagataabhirabito brajasundaribihi mugdasmitardravadanah karunavaloki nisima kanti jaladhistvamavekshямano vishvaikahridya harame pavanesha rogan.
अभ्यागताभिरभितो व्रजसुन्दरीभिः मुग्धास्मितार्द्रवदनः करुणावलोकी निस्सीमकान्तिजलधिस्त्वमवेक्ष्यमाणो विश्वैकहृद्यहर मे परमेशरोगान् अभ्यागताभिरभितो व्रजसुन्दरीभिः मुग्धस्मितार्द्रवदनः करुणावलोकी निस्सीमकान्तिजलधिस्त्वमवेक्ष्यमाणो विश्वैकहृद्यहर मे परमेशरोगान्.
Last line, Hema, pavanesha rogan.
परमेशल्य
Pavanesha.
ओके इल्ल परमेशन ओके थैंक यू.
अभ्यागताभिरभितो व्रजसुन्दरीभिः मुग्धस्मितार्द्रवदनः करुणावलोकी निस्सीमकान्तिजलधिस्त्वमवेक्ष्यमाणो विश्वेकहृद्य हर मे pavanesha paramesha pavamesha
Pavanesha.
Pavanesha.
CAVA. Yeah, and the wind. So Pavanesha. I'm just typing it there. Pavanesha rogan.
Okay. Abhyagataabhirabhito vrajasundaribihi mugdas smitardra karunavaloki निस्सीमकान्ति जलधिस्त्वमवेक्ष्यमाणो विश्वैकहृद्य हर मे पवनेश रोगान्.
Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. Okay, Dasakam 66. Gopi Janahladana Varnanam. So this is going to swing a little bit, but the essence of this is making the gopikas happy. So even this, I'm going to just say the summary of it up front, right? So all this gopikas, gopis, they come there, and they see Krishna there. Now, when they've all abandoned their family, right, very similar to the Yajva Patnis who then left their husbands and their fathers and everybody and came. So here Krishna is initially going to like test them a little bit. So he says, he questions them, he's saying that you all have come like this. You have left your fathers, you have left your husbands, you have left your family and all of that stuff. So he's questioning, why have you actually come here? And plus you all come in the middle of the night, which is not safe because it's like in the forest on the banks of Yamuna. So there are going to be animals here and all of these things. So why have you all left everything and come? It is not appropriate for you to do this, right? So he says the right thing for you, because you're all married, you all have, your young girls, whatever age you are, it's appropriate for you to go back to your own families and not do this at the middle of the night. You cannot leave it and come. So he says, so if you are thinking about me, you can think of me from your house. You don't have to come here physically. So he tries to send them away initially, right? So but however, these gopikas, right, they're actually torn right now. So they say that they kind of literally say you're stuck between, like we say, a rock and a hard place, right? So they're saying I'm stuck because he says we just don't want to, once we have seen you, Krishna, we don't want to leave you and go. We just want to be here. At the same time, you are telling us to go back right now. But we can't go back either because, we kind of ran away from our house to some extent, right? So we kind of left our houses and come. So we can't go back either. So they say we are kind of stuck in the middle. So they say there's no opportunity for us to even go back. And, we want to just stay back here with you, right? And then, so he's essentially pushing to see how committed they are in truly wanting to be with Krishna, which means that you have to sacrifice a lot of things, right? That's the lesson here. So they have sacrificed everything they have and they've come. And sometimes you push back and say, are you really sure? And then people are like, actually, you know what? I'm not sure, right? Then they'll go back. So he's trying to push them a little bit there and say, are you truly sure this is not the right thing to be doing? And they say, no, we've left everything. We don't want anything else. We just want to be here. So that is that selfless love where they're saying, even if you don't give anything in return, or even if you say you don't love me, which means Krishna is telling them go back, even if you say to go back, we are not going to go back. Because so that is that kind of love. So the example I always quote here, right, is, many of you are mothers, right? So you get it, right? Like when you do things for your kids, even if the kid doesn't say thank you, you still do it, right? Because do you expect anything in return? No, but you do it, right? So similarly here, the Gopika's love for Krishna is like that. Even if Krishna doesn't reciprocate, even if Krishna doesn't give anything in return, they don't care. They're like, we still love you selflessly, right? So they're saying, no, we can't go back because of this, right? You should not reject. Now, the thing here is, Krishna, now the Gopikas, the relationship of the Gopikas with Krishna is a little bit paradoxical to some extent because, like I said in the previous Dashakam or the one before that, is the Gopas have this feeling that this is not an ordinary boy, right? And even after that Govardhana episode, and when Nanda Gopa went to Varuna Loka, they all thought this is not an ordinary boy. This person is probably some incarnation of Bhagavan with some potency, with some strength, right? But when the Gopikas look at it, on one hand, they think of him as somebody who's a great person who's actually amidst them. They get that. But truly, the relationship with them is not as that, right? They still think that, that even that they are like just connected with him directly. So with that, so the Gopikas refuse to go back. And that's the back and forth that actually goes here between Krishna and Gopika. And finally, when they say we cannot go back, Krishna says, okay, you can now stay back, right? And then Krishna is going to communicate. Then we'll see what happens when they decide to stay back, which is the Dashakam 70-67. But in this is really the conversation that is happening between Krishna and Gopika. I'll call out some things as we go through, but that is pretty much the essence of this, where he tells them to go, but they don't. So this one is like two-liners, but it will follow the tune of the four-liners. Okay, so it'll be a little bit off. Upayathanam sudrusham, comma, Kusumayuda Bana Pata Vivashanam Abhivanchitam Vidhatum, comma, Kritamatirapi Ta Jagata Vamamiva. So even though they came with a lot of love to you, you talk to them as if you didn't want them there. So in a little bit of a pushback way. Upahyatanham sudrusham kusumayudhabhanapata vivashanham abhivanchitam vidhatum kritamatira jagata vamamiva.
उपयातानां सुदृशां कुसुमायुधबाणपातविवशानाम् अभिवाचितं विधातुं कृतमतिरपिता जगातवाममिव. Sorry, the tune is completely off.
Once you get it, it's like Dashakam 44. It's the same. Certain Dashakams are in the same structure there.
उपयातानां सुदृशां कुसुमायुधबाणपातविवशानाम् अभिवाचितं विधातुं कृतमतिरपिता जगातवाममिव.
இந்த விதாத்தும் அப்புறம் பாஸ் இருக்கு. Yeah.
उपयाथानां सुदृशां कुसुमायुध भाणपात विवशानाम् अभिवाञ्छितं विधातुं कृतमातिरपिता जगात वाममिव. उपयातानां सुदृशां कुसुमायुधबाणपात विवशानाम् अभिवाञ्छित विधातुं कृतमतिरपिता जगात वाममिव.
गगन गतं मुनि निबहं श्रावयितुं जगित कुल वधू धर्मं धर्म्यं खलु ते वचनं कर्म तु नो निर्मलस्य विश्वास्यम्. So he's talking to them about kula vadhu dharma. He's talking about the dharma of people, of women who are supposed to take care, everybody, right? We all have in the ashrama that we are in, we are supposed to take care of our families. So it kind of reminds them of all of that. Gaganagatam muninivaham श्रावयितुं जगितकुलवधूधर्मं धर्म्यं खलु ते वचनं कर्म तु नो निर्मलस्य विश्वास्यम्.
गगनगतं मुनिनिवहं श्रवयुतं जगितकुलवधूधर्मं धर्म्यं खलु ते वचनं कर्म तु नो निर्मलस्य विश्वास्यम्.
First line after the comma, श्रावयितुं.
Okay. गगनगतं मुनिनिवहं श्रावयितुं जगितकुलवधूधर्मं धर्म्यं खलु ते वचनं कर्म तु नो निर्मलस्य विश्वास्यम्.
गगनगतं मुनिनिवहं श्रावयितुं जगितकुलवधूधर्मं धर्म्यं खलु ते वचनं कर्म तु नो निर्मलस्य विश्वास्यम्. गगनगतं मुनिनिवहं श्रावयितुं जगितकुलवधूधर्मं धर्म्यं खलु ते वचनं कर्म तु नो निर्मलस्य विश्वास्यम्.
आकर्ण्य ते प्रतीपां वाणीं, breaking at that ma, वाणीं, comma. Next word starts with the A. Eni drishaha, put a F to join. Eni drishah param dinaha. Ma karuna sindho, comma. The next word, long word, cannot break it. Parityajet yatichiram. Cannot break that word. Parityajet yatichiram vile pustaha. So here when Krishna says no, this talks about the grief that they are going through, where they're saying ma means no here. So ma karuna sindhu, the one who's full of compassion, right? Saying no. So they're pleading with Krishna, saying we don't want to go back. Don't reject us and send us back. we just want to stay here with you, right? So that is the amount of grief, and which some of them cry, so it talks about the grief they are experiencing when they're being told to go back. आकर्ण्यते प्रतीपां वाणीम् एनीदृशः परं दीनाः मामा करुणा सिन्धो परित्यजेत्यति चिरं विलेपुस्ताः.
आकर्ण्यते प्रतीपां वाणीम् एनीदृशः परन्दीनः मामा करुणा सिन्धो परित्यजेत्यति चिरं विलेपुस्ताः. आकर्ण्यते प्रतीपां वाणीम् एनीदृशः परं दीनाः मामा करुणा सिन्धो परित्यजेत्यति चिरं विलेपुस्ताः.
आकर्ण्यते प्रतीपां वाणीम् येनीदृष्टः परं दीनाः मामा करुणासिन्धो परित्यजेत् यति चिरं विलेपुस्ताः. आकर्ण्यते प्रतीपं वाणीं दृशः परं दीनाः मामा करुणासिन्धो परित्यजेत् यत चिरं विलेपुस्ताः.
तासां रुदितैर्लपितैः करुणाकुल मानसो मुरारे त्वं ताभिः समं प्रवृत्तो यमुना पुलिनेषु कामम् अभिरन्तुम्. You can break that ma. कामम् अभिरन्तुम्. तासां रुदितैर्लपितैः करुणाकुलमानसो मुरारे त्वं ताभिः समं प्रवृत्तो यमुना पुलिनेषु काममभिरन्तुम्.
तासां रुदितैर्लपितैः करुणाकुलमानसो मुरारे त्वं ताभिः समं प्रवृत्तो यमुनापुलिनेषु काममभिरन्तुम्. तासां रुदितैर्लपितैः करुणाकुलमानसो मुरारे त्वं ताभिः समं प्रवृत्तो यमुनापुलिनेषु काममभिरन्तुम्.
तासां रुदितैर्लपितैः करुणाकुलमानसो मुरारे त्वं ताभिः समं प्रवृत्तो यमुनापुलिनेषु काममभिरन्तुम्. तासां रुदितैर्लपितैः करुणाकुलमानसो मुरारे त्वं ताभिः समं प्रवृत्तो यमुनापुलिनेषु काममभिरन्तुम्.
चन्द्रकर स्यन्द लसत् put a plus सुन्दर यमुना तटान्त वीतीषु. So that line is continuous. गोपी जनोत्तरीयैहि. So the ra that is there goes away. Visarga comma gopi janottariyaihi comma. Next verse starts with the a. आपादित संस्तरो न्यशीदस् त्वम्. चन्द्रकरस्यन्दलसत् सुन्दर यमुना तटान्तवीतीषु गोपीजनोत्तरीयैः आपादित संस्तरो न्यशीदस्त्वम्.
चन्द्रकरस्यन्दलसत्सुन्दर यमुना तटान्तवितीषु गोपीजनोत्तरीयैः आपादित संस्तरो न्यशीदस्त्वम्. चन्द्रकरस्यन्दलसत्सुन्दर यमुना तटान्तवितीषु गोपीजनोत्तरीयैः आपादित संस्तरो न्यशीदस्त्वम्.
And the first line, last word, Hema, Vitishu, long, Vitishu. Okay. And the Gopi Janotariyehi, adukapram comma irukku. Okay.
चन्द्रकरस्यन्द लसत् सुन्दरयमुनातटान्तवीथीषु गोपीजनोत्तरीयैः आपादितसंस्तरो न्यषीदस्त्वं चन्द्रकरय चन्द्रकरयस् लसत्सुन्दरयमुनातटान्तवीथीषु गोपीजनोन्तरीयैः आपादितसंस्तरो न्यषीदस्त्वं
सुमधुर नर्मालपनैः कर संग्रहणैश्च चुम्बनोल्लासैः गाढालिङ्गन संगैः, that is goes away, visarga comma संगैः त्वमङ्गना लोकमाकुली, if you want to break it, that लोकमाकुली चकृषे सुमधुरनर्मालपनैः करसङ्ग्रहणैश्च चुम्बनोल्लासैः गाढालिङ्गनसङ्गैः त्वमङ्गनालोकमाकुली चकृषे।
सुमधुरनर्मालपनैः करसङ्ग्रहणैश्च चुम्बनोल्लासैः गाढालिङ्गनसङ्गैः त्वमङ्गनालोकम् आकुलीचक्रिषे। सुमधुरनर्मालपनैः करसङ्ग्रहणैश्च चुम्बनोल्लासैः गाढालिङ्गनसङ्गैः त्वमङ्गनालोकमाकुलीचक्रिषे।
चन्द्रकरस्यन्द
सुमधुर
sorry सुमधुरनर्मल नर्मल
नर्माल
सुमधुरनर्मालपनैः करसङ्ग्रहणैश्च चुम्बनोल्लासैः गाढालिङ्गनसङ्गैः त्वमङ्गनालोकमाकुलीचक्रुषे नर्मालपनैः करसङ्ग्रहणैश्च चुम्बनोल्लासैः गाढालिङ्गनसङ्गैः त्वमङ्गनालोकमाकुलीचकृषे।
वासो हरण दिने यत् वासो हरणं प्रतिश्रुतं तासां तदपि विभो रस विवश स्वान्तानां कान्त सुभ्रुवामददाः। वासोहरण दिने यद्वासोहरणं प्रतिश्रुतं तासां तदपि विभो रसविवश स्वान्तानां कान्तसुब्रुवामदधाः।
ராஜேஷ் அங்க வந்து இந்த ஃபர்ஸ்ட் வாசோ ஹரண தினேக்கு அப்புறம் ஒரு பாஸ் இருக்கா?
ஆமா, காமாங்க, அதுக்கப்புறம் காமா. and then yad vasu.
वासोहरणदिने यद्वासोहरणं प्रतिश्रुतं तासां तदपि विभोरसविवशस्वान्तानां कान्तसुब्रुवां कान्तसुब्रुवामददाः। वासोहरणदिने यद्वासोहरणं प्रतिश्रुतं तासां तदपि रसविवशस्वान्तानां कान्तशुभ्रुवामददाः।
वासोहरणदिने यद्वासोहरणं प्रतिश्रुतं तासां तदपि विभोरसविवशस्वान्तानां कान्तसुब्रुवामददाः। वासाहरणदिने यद्वासोहरणं प्रतिश्रुतं तासां तदपि विभोरसविवशस्वान्तानां कान्तसुब्रुवामददाः।
First word vaso, second time you said vasana, but vasoharan. Kandalita gharma lesham, kunda mridu smera bhaktra patojam Nanda Suta Tvam Trijagat Sundaram, breaking at that ma, Sundaram, Upaguhya Nandita Balaha. Kandalita Gharmalesham Kundamridusmera Vaktrapatojam Nanda Sutatvam Trijagat Sundaram Upaguhya Nandita Balaha.
कन्दलितगर्मलेशं कुन्दमृदुस्मेरवक्त्रपातोजं नन्दसुतत्वां त्रिजगत्सुन्दरम् उपगुह्य नन्दिता बालाः कन्दलितगर्मलेशं कुन्दमृदुस्मेरवक्त्रपातोजं नन्दसुतत्वां त्रिजगत्सुन्दरम् उपगुह्य नन्दिता बालाः
कन्दलितधर्मलेशं कुन्दमृदुस्मेरवक्त्रपातेजां नन्दसुतत्वां त्रिजगत्सुन्दरम् उपगुह्य नन्दिता बालाः.
First line, last word, Pathojam.
पाथोजम्. कन्दलितधर्मलेशं कुन्दमृदुस्मेरवक्त्रपाथोजं नन्दसुतत्वां त्रिजगत्सुन्दरम् उपगुह्य नन्दिता बालाः.
The first word, Girish, Kandalita Gha sound, Gharmalesham.
Gharmalesham. Okay, correct. Okay, thank you.
Right? Virahe Shvangaramayaha. That's one word. Virahe Shvangaramayaha. Shringaramayascha Sangame Hitvam Nitaram, breaking at that ma, Nitaram Angaramayaha is goes away, Visarga comma, Angaramayaha. Tatra Punas Sangamepi Chitramidam. Says Viraheshu, in separation, you are like a burn. When you are separated from Bhagavan, it feels like a burning charcoal. It is very hot. It is very unbearable separation. But at the same time, when you are with him, then they were all experiencing supreme bliss. Viraheshwangaramaya Shringaраmayascha Sangame Tvam Nitaram Angaramaya Tatra Punas Sangame Pichitramidam.
विरहेष्वङ्गारमयः शृङ्गारमयश्च सङ्गमे हि त्वं नितरामङ्गारमय नितरां वर्म
Nitaram Angaramaya.
नितरामङ्गारमयः तत्र पुनः सङ्गमेऽपि चित्रमिदम् विरहेष्वङ्गारमयः शृङ्गारमयश्च सङ्गमे हि त्वं नितरामङ्गारमयः तत्र पुनः सङ्गमेऽपि चित्रमिदम्
विरहेष्वङ्गारमयः शृङ्गारमयश्च सङ्गमे हि त्वं नितरामङ्गारमयः तत्र पुनः सङ्गमेऽपि चित्रमिदम् विरहेष्वङ्गारमयः शृङ्गारमयश्च सङ्गमे हि त्वं नितरामङ्गारमयः तत्र पुनः सङ्गमेऽपि चित्रमिदम्.
Radha Tunga Payodhara Sadhu, put a plus, Pariramba Lulupatmanam, so that line is together. Aradhaye Bhavantam, comma, Pavana Puradisha Shamaya Sakala Gadan. So like we said, the Radha word comes only a few times. It's going to come here, it's going to come again in the next Dashakam as well. So, but in the context of this, there's not much description of the relationship between Krishna or Radha here, but she's only expressed, the name is expressed as someone who's the most devoted out of all the Gopikas who are actually out there, right? So it is in that context only here. So it says, Aradhe Bhavantam. So I'm meditating on you with my heart, Krishna, who was extreme affection for Radha because she is the most favorite, because she is the most devoted to Krishna as well, right? So of course, whatever you put is what you get back, right? So she is the most attached and devoted to Krishna. So you are most attached to her. So with that, Arade Bhavantam, I'm meditating on you with that. Please eradicate Sakala Gadan, all the ailments I have. राधा तुङ्गपयोधर साधुपरीरम्बलोलुपात्मानम् आराधये भवन्तं पवनपुराधीश शमय सकलगदान्.
Rajesh, ஒரு quick question. இந்த tune மாறுறது அதுல இல்ல அதேதானே?
இல்ல சேம் அதேதான்.
राधा तुङ्गपयोदर साधु परिरम्बलोलुपात्मानम् आराधये भवन्तं पवनपुराधीश शमय सकलगदान्. राधा तुङ्गपयोदर साधु परिरम्बलोलुपात्मानम् आराधये भवन्तं पवनपुराधीश शमय सकलगदान्.
राधातुङ्गपयोदरसाधुपरीरम्बलोलुपात्मानम् आराधये भवन्तं पवनपुराधीशशमय सकलगदान्. राधातुङ्गपयोदरसाधुपरीरम्बलोलुपात्मानम् आराधयो भवन्तं पवनपुराधीशशमय सकलगदान्.
Second line first part, आराधये.
आराधये भवन्तम्. Okay.
श्री कृष्णाय परब्रह्मणे नमः. सान्द्रानन्दावबोधात्मकमनुपमितं कालदेशावधिभ्यां निर्मुक्तं नित्यमुक्तं निगमशतसहस्रेण निर्भास्यमानम् अस्पष्टं दृष्टमात्रे पुनरुरुपुरुषार्थात्मकं ब्रह्मतत्त्वं तत्तावद्भाति साक्षात् गुरुपवनपुरे हन्त भाग्यं जनानां कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Rajesh.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Happy Mother's Day,
happy
Divya.
Mother's Day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone, happy Mother's Day.